Britt Baker is one of the biggest homegrown AEW stars in its young history. Tony Khan is one of the biggest alienators of big stars pro wrestling has ever seen. Right on cue, Britt Baker is in Tony Khan's doghouse. Thankfully, Tony's a nepobaby, so his doghouse is bigger than most studio apartments in Jacksonville. As a top star on Tony's shit list, Baker is following in the footsteps of Jade Cargill, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes. It's great company to be in considering their seamless transitions to WWE, where all are involved in major storylines. Britt also joined several up-and-coming AEW stars under contract in AEW jail. Tony Khan has turned his pattern of feuding with big stars into an addiction. My man likes alienating top stars more than he likes powdered donuts. Because today, we're going to talk about Britt Baker's feud with AEW and the real reason Khan cannot coexist with talent capable of making him money. Subscribe in Swahili.
What's good? Come get your free PWB sticker. You can stick me on your smartphone so I can listen to all your conversations like the government. But I won't tell anyone. I'll just judge quietly. I'm a healthy adhesive. Just post me on a MacBook because apples are delicious. We can even stick it to the man and jump on a cop car together. Whee! Because, hey, where are you going, you selfish son of a... Is that all you got, you hoe-ass pigs?
Get your free stickers by clicking the link in the description. Britt Baker was an ambitious journeyman hungry for her big break. After appearances on the independent circuit and even a WWE cameo in 2016 where she was squashed by Nia Jax, Baker got her shot in a historic women's fatal four-way at the original All In. Baker faced Tessa Blanchard, Chelsea Green, and Madison Rayne in a losing effort. The match was a celebration of women's wrestling on a male-dominated show. In fact, it was the only women's match on the card. But it was also the precursor to Britt Baker being anointed the Golden Girl of AEW. Just a few months later, AEW debuted. In addition to the EVPs, AEW was originally built around four young homegrown pillars: Sammy Guevara, Jack Perry, MJF, and Darby Allin. Though Britt Baker wasn't an official pillar, AEW wasted no time building the women's division around her. She even named herself the fifth pillar. After struggling to get over as a babyface, Baker found her voice as a heel. A part-time dentist, Baker incorporated DMD as part of her name and catchphrase. By being an agitator in the women's division with the volume turned up, Britt Baker tapped into a heel character that could draw heat with the literal flick of the wrist. This became a theme for Baker both in and out of the ring. Baker's official coming out party came in a lights out match against Thunder Rosa in 2021. Both women bled in a pandemic era match that helped define AEW at its peak. Baker lost the match but stole the show. And over the long haul, she'd eventually pass up Thunder Rosa in the women's wrestling pecking order. But Baker's feud with Rosa was an early sign of Baker's penchant for backstage controversy. Rosa and Baker reportedly hated each other IRL. Baker was critical of Thunder Rosa dropping the AEW Women's World title due to injury, but still continuing to make personal appearances. In an interview with Slam Magazine, Baker doubled down on these comments. Quote, "I stand by everything I said because I still have the same questions. You're traveling all over the place for other projects, but you're not coming to work where you are the champion? I have that question. I want to know why. I'm just asking that question because I'm very passionate and protective of AEW. Anyone can call me a bully, but I stand by that, and that question still hasn't been answered to this day." During a backstage segment at AEW Fyter Fest, Baker handed a sandbag to Thunder Rosa in reference to a real-life incident where Rosa sandbagged Marina Shafir. Baker and Rosa's real-life heat was one of the key storylines in the short-lived AEW reality show All Access. Though reality TV tends to be just as scripted as a scripted TV show, Baker was portrayed as a cliquey backstage bully who rallied the women's locker room against her ops, a perception that follows her to this day. Baker went on hiatus in 2023 partly due to back injury. Despite recovering from injury, Baker admittedly said she listens to the fans and heard they wanted less Britt Baker. So she obliged. Baker returned at Forbidden Door 2024 and later revealed she suffered a mini stroke during her hiatus. Now a sympathetic figure, Baker's return only came with more controversy. What was supposed to be her biggest career match against Mercedes Moné was overshadowed by a locker room altercation involving MJF and MJF's girlfriend Alicia Atout. Baker's role resulted in a suspension by Tony Khan. MJF and Atout went unpunished. After losing a stinker of a match against Mercedes, Baker started a feud with Serena Deeb. In one of AEW's most memorable moments of 2024, and AEW's official slogan that year, Baker was seen saying, "Nobody cares," during Deeb's entrance. Deeb made the most of the moment by wearing a Nobody Cares t-shirt the following week. That t-shirt didn't sell too well on AEW Shop, but to be fair, nothing does, because when it comes to AEW, nobody cares. After Nobody Cares Gate, Baker never returned to TV for a follow-up. In fact, she hasn't been seen since. Baker's absence has been attributed to filming a role on Cobra Kai. In a recent interview, Baker had nothing but nice things to say about Khan and AEW. But that may have all been lip service, because the tea leaves suggest that there are tensions between the two sides. Reports surface that Baker is wildly unpopular in AEW, and Baker is one of the growing number of talents that Tony Khan is purposefully keeping off TV. Between Baker, Miro, Rey Fenix, and Wardlow, the stars in AEW's doghouse are younger and more talented than the aging stars Tony Khan chooses to put on TV. Next week on All the Heat Wrestling, check out some of the most talented stars in AEW who also happen to be in Tony Khan's doghouse. Ricky Starks takes on Rey Fenix, and the winner gets a whole 2 days cut from their injury time. Then, 2 months from the day the Jags were eliminated from playoff contention, it's Miro versus Wardlow in a mean match. The loser has to go by their first and last name. Then, 2 weeks after Grand Slam was moved to a studio apartment, it's intergender action as Britt Baker battles Malachi Black in a prison key on a pole match. The winner gets to enter the Royal Rumble at number 30. Tony Khan is allergic to talent, and All the Heat Wrestling is loaded with all the top stars that ticked them off. Buy 1 ticket, get 2 free with a burger, and watch AEW live. Some sources claim that Khan and Baker's rift is being blown out of proportion. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And Tony Khan has built a reputation of running big names out of his own promotion to the benefit of WWE. Tony Khan has trouble dealing with strong personalities because he's a pacifist billionaire with no spine who's terrified of confrontation. Always remember, this is the same Tony Khan who feared for his life because CM Punk briefly lunged at him. And if you look at the brawl-in footage, it's more of a look than a lunge. I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen the last of Britt Baker in AEW. The next elephant of the room will be if and when Baker arrives in WWE. For all the talk of the men in AEW's doghouse, there are only so many spots for male wrestlers to resurface as top stars in Stamford. Malachi Black, Phoenix, Starks, Wardlow, and Miro are, at the very least, hopeful to arrive in WWE. But out of that very talented group, they'll be lucky if one of them becomes a top star. Britt Baker, on the other hand, is one of a small number of big names in women's wrestling who could be available to WWE during an era where they just introduced new sets of women's Intercontinental and United States championships. Between Britt Baker and TNA's Tessa Blanchard, WWE's leadership will be put to the test if both find themselves sharing a locker room in 2025 and beyond. If and when that happens, the two should feud with one another right off the bat as a test. By the way, I have no problem with Britt Baker's rep of being difficult to work with. A lot of your GOATs, from CM Punk to Shawn Michaels to Dwayne Johnson, have that same rep and they're celebrated for it. Vince McMahon built an empire on the strength of his own toxicity. Everybody says Tony Khan is a nice guy. He's such a nice guy. He's such a sweetheart. And that's the reason AEW is getting bullied out of the National Wrestling Wars and struggling to defend itself. Wrestling favors the pricks, the curmudgeons, the assholes. The best wrestlers in the world didn't come here to make friends. They came here to make money. And if WWE signs CMDMD, chances are they're going to make even more of it. Check out this video and subscribe. Is Britt Baker done with AEW? If so, do you want to see her in WWE? Tell me in the comments.